電視台 OK 未 ？OK 啦，咁麻煩。
歡迎出席警方同證監會嘅聯合記者會。記者會分兩個部分，第一部分簡介一個打擊唱高散貨集團嘅拘捕行動，第二部分總結反洗黑錢月嘅執法行動同埋宣傳工作。先介紹台上講者，喺大家左手邊第三位，財富情報科高級警司鄭麗琪；喺左耳嘅係警司周長友，左一係高級督察梁家陽。喺右手邊第三位嘅係證監會執行董事魏建新 Mr. Thomas Atkinson， 右邊第二位係總監戴林 Mr. Michael Dugden， 另外右一係總監湯漢輝。而家將時間交俾 Madam Jan。
好，咁多位傳媒朋友午安。今日我哋嘅簡介會係會同大家講解一下我哋香港警方財富情報及調查科聯同證券及期貨事務監察委員會，即係證監會，聯同新加坡嘅執法機構聯合採取咗一個聯合嘅行動。咁我會交代翻一啲拘捕嘅過程同埋細節。喺尋日，即係2021年嘅12月15日，我哋香港警方同埋證監會以及新加坡嘅金融管理局同埋新加坡嘅警方採取咗一個代號獵狼行動。呢一個亦都係我哋首次四方嘅一個聯合嘅行動。呢個行動係針對一啲跨境嘅造市同埋洗黑錢嘅集團。呢個集團喺2021年初就開始串謀3間喺香港嘅上市公司嘅一啲高級嘅管理層就係以唱高散貨嘅形式就係操控市場。唱高散貨嘅形式就即係話佢哋利用一啲社交嘅平台啦，就係會吹噓呢一啲股票係會價格係會上升，然之後就係誘使一啲無辜嘅投資者喺高價買入呢啲股票。咁及後不法分子就係會喺高價大量拋售呢一啲嘅股票啦，從而係獲取利益嘅。咁呢一啲股價隨即就會應聲下跌啦，而令到無辜嘅投資者係蒙受巨大嘅損失。呢啲唱高散貨嘅行為其實係違反咗證券及期貨條例裏邊市場操控啦、虛假交易啦，同埋披露虛假資料去誘使交易等等嘅罪行。咁呢一方面就係由證監會方面去調查嘅。而我哋調查亦都發現呢一啲不法嘅集團，當佢哋大量拋售咗呢一啲嘅股票之後佢哋獲取嘅利潤亦都會迅速轉去一啲空殼嘅公司，亦都會再轉帳去唔同嘅銀行戶口作為清洗黑錢。咁所以呢一部分清洗黑錢嘅罪行就係交由我哋香港警方財富情報及調查科係負責跟進嘅。調查期間，我哋都發現呢個集團除咗佢哋係會利用香港嘅一啲證券戶口去操控呢一啲股票買賣之外亦都會利用新加坡嘅一啲證券戶口去操控呢一啲買賣。所以今次嘅行動，我哋亦都聯同咗新加坡嗰邊嘅金融管理局啦，同埋新加坡警方一齊去採取呢一個執法嘅行動。今次嘅行動我哋香港警方聯同證監會一共係動員咗超過170人，突擊搜查咗47個處所，拘捕咗9名嘅人士。喺佢哋嘅銀行戶口裏邊亦一共係凍結咗4800萬港幣嘅資產。喺唔同嘅現場亦都檢取咗達到170萬嘅現金。喺新加坡嗰邊我哋就係拘捕咗一名女子，亦都凍結咗佢2500萬港幣嘅資產嘅。咁有關呢一個唱高散貨嘅犯罪手法同埋行動嘅細節一陣間我哋會慢慢去交代。 而喺今次嘅行動呢，我哋香港警方同埋證監會呢，亦都相信已經成功瓦解咗一個跨境嘅造市同埋洗黑錢嘅集團。咁喺度，我哋特別亦都多謝新加坡嗰方面嘅執法機關嘅配合同埋協作，令到呢個行動咧得以順利進行嘅。咁呢個時間呢，我會交俾我身邊證監會嘅執行董事 Mr. Thomas Allen Atkinson 繼續講解行動嘅內容。Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. When we met here last in March for the press conference on the joint operation by the SFC and the Hong Kong police against a sophisticated ramp and dump syndicate, we shared with you our commitment to eliminate these financial crimes which cause harm and distress to the investing public. We are very grateful to work with the Hong Kong police to closely tackle serious and complex ramp and dump scams. Their professionalism and support is very important to the success of our collaboration. Yesterday's joint operation against a large-scale cross-border ramp and dump syndicate is testament to our commitment and continuous effort to collaborate with other regulators and law enforcement agencies to eradicate serious and complex financial crimes and to protect the public and to maintain market integrity. The unprecedented four-party joint operation with the Hong Kong police, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, and the Singapore police was very successful, and we believe it has significantly disrupted the syndicate's operation in Hong Kong and Singapore. In Hong Kong, the SFC executed search warrants on 32 premises, of which 13 were jointly searched by the SFC and the Hong Kong police. Over 100 SFC officers and over 80 officers of the Hong Kong police and over 10 officers of MAS and the Singapore police participated in yesterday's joint operation. The Hong Kong police arrested a total of 9 individuals who are suspected to be connected with the syndicate, including some senior executives of Hong Kong listed companies for money laundering offenses. At the same time, MAS and the Singapore police searched an address linked to the alleged syndicate in Singapore and arrested a key syndicate member at the scene. Tackling rampant dump scams has always been a top enforcement priority. From January 2019 to November of this year, the SFC has frozen a total of $11.1 billion worth of assets relating to other suspected syndicates, market manipulation, and rampant dump scams. We will continue our close collaboration with the Hong Kong police and other local and international law enforcement agencies to crack down on large-scale and complex market misconduct syndicates. Once again, I'd like to thank the Hong Kong police, MAS, and the Singapore police for their assistance and cooperation in this successful four-party joint operation. I'll now pass it over to Michael, who heads the market misconduct team of the Enforcement Division.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned by Tom, this is the first time the SFC has carried out a simultaneous operation with both local and overseas securities regulators and law enforcement agencies when tackling a cross-border ramp and dump syndicate. As we've said before, we are very grateful for the cooperation rendered by the Hong Kong Police, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and Singapore Police in cracking down on this Hong Kong-based ramp and dump syndicate that has conducted large-scale cross-border ramp and dump schemes in Hong Kong and in Singapore. Between December last year and August this year, the alleged syndicate coordinated and executed ramp and dump scams in the shares of 3 Hong Kong listed companies by using social media platforms and numerous securities accounts in Hong Kong and Singapore held by different nominees. The suspicious trading activities of this syndicate were first identified by the SFC's real-time market surveillance team. After further intensive investigations, we sought assistance from MAS and the Hong Kong police under the existing memorandums of mutual understanding, We have previously shared information with MAS, but this is the first time we have done a simultaneous operation with them. This case reflects the SFC's continuous use of RegTech and intelligence from multiple sources in combating market misconduct. The SFC surveillance team is equipped with state-of-the-art data analytic tools to detect and identify complex ramp and dump schemes that involve multiple traders and market events. The SFC also actively follows up on public complaints, self-reports from brokers, and referrals from other agencies. In addition to taking front-loaded enforcement actions, over the past year, the SFC has stepped up our investor education work to help investors to recognize and understand the operation of these ramp and dump scams. This year, the SFC has been hosting a number of investor education events and published materials via the SFC Facebook and LinkedIn pages relating to ramp and dump scams. The SFC will continue to work closely with the Police's Anti-Deception Coordination Centre and Investor and Financial Education Council on an ongoing investor education campaign. However, I would like to stress that members of the public can also do their part by staying vigilant and making informed investment decisions instead of relying on stock tips circulating in online chat groups or online platforms. A ramp and dump scam is a serious market misconduct offence under the Securities and Futures Ordinance. The maximum penalty is a $10 million fine and 10 years imprisonment. Any ramp and dump scam which also involves the active participation or willful blindness of substantial shareholders and senior executives of listed companies would be regarded as particularly serious. Such behavior would not only jeopardize their companies, but also bring the integrity of the Hong Kong financial market into disrepute. The SFC is determined to tackle market misconduct and will continue taking prompt actions to intervene and protect the investing public. And now I'll pass over to Jimmy.
Thank you, Mike. 大家好，今次證監會同香港警方喺呢次嘅行動裏邊呢，亦都係我哋第一次喺四方裏邊同香港警方、新加坡金管局 MAS 啦，同埋新加坡警方咧係聯手去打擊一個大型嘅複雜嘅造市唱高散貨集團。咁呢次行動咧，如頭先阿 Tom 同埋阿 Mike 所講咧，我哋相信係成功瓦解咗一個活躍於香港同埋新加坡嘅造市集團，打擊呢個集團嘅運作，包括有拘捕行動啦，同埋咧亦都係如頭先我哋所講咧，我哋今次調查係一如以往，我哋用一個前置式嘅策略，一個分撈 approach 咧，去主動打擊執法。對於呢啲唱高散貨嘅嚴重嘅造市行為咧，我哋係證監會咧係採零容忍態度。第二，我哋亦都會透過我哋嘅投資者教育啦，包括同我哋嘅投委會 IFEC 同埋警方嘅反詐騙綜合作咧，係加強宣傳活動。咁頭先警方阿 Madam 姐亦都講過大概嗰個手法係點樣啦。咁亦都證監會希望再次呼籲咧各投資者咧喺網上投資咧要小心，千祈咧要避免作為呢啲唱高散貨集團嘅利誘對象。遇到有任何嘅問題咧，一定要小心去認清入邊嘅事實，千祈唔好喺網上誤交朋友或者誤信一啲有投資貼士或者內幕消息嘅人士，甚至有啲係可能喺網上扮演一啲知名嘅財經股評人啊，亦都要小心，因為其實咧世界上冇免費午餐嘅，所以咧如果要投資嘅話咧要小心。多謝大家。
唔該啊 Jimmy。各位傳媒大家好啊，我係財富調查組警司周常友。咁我用以下嘅時間呢，就係簡單介紹下呢單案件嘅犯罪手法。咁頭先證監會嘅同事咧都提到啦，其實今次嘅犯罪集團呢，係利用咗社交媒體咧就唱高散貨進行違法嘅活動嘅。咁其實唱高散貨咧主要就係可以分開4個階段去犯案嘅。咁第一個階段咧，大家見到啲圖咧就係一個叫做低位買貨同埋營造聲勢嘅一個階段啦。 咁喺呢個階段裏邊呢，犯罪集團就會利用集團成員或者佢哋控制其他人嘅喺香港同埋新加坡嘅證券戶口，喺低位呢就買入大量涉案嘅股票，繼而呢就透過高頻率嘅交易活動呢，係將股價呢逐步推高，營造升勢。咁涉案股票嘅公司嘅高級管理層呢，亦都有參與其中嘅違法活動嘅。喺第二個階段呢，就係一個唱高嘅階段啦。咁集團呢就會利用呢啲社交媒體群組啦，就向投資者呢就訛稱係一啲內幕嘅消息，同埋不斷吹噓啲股票嘅前景同埋利好消息，誘使投資者呢就相繼呢就跟風，就喺高位呢買入呢啲涉案股票嘅。跟住就到咗第三個叫散貨嘅階段啦。咁呢個階段呢，就當股票呢就被呢啲集團呢就推到高位之後呢，集團成員同埋涉案嘅啲公司嘅管理層呢，就會趁機呢大手散貨，從中呢獲取龐大嘅利益。喺大手散貨嘅一啲同時呢，同時間呢就會令到股價呢喺短時間之內呢暴跌，咁啊導致呢真正嘅投資者呢就受到巨大嘅呢個損失嘅。咁最後一個呢就係話到佢哋去處理一啲犯罪得益嘅階段啦。集團成員呢就會利用一啲法律戶口係進行一啲洗黑錢嘅活動嘅。佢哋會將交易得到翻嚟嘅利益呢係轉移到一啲空殼公司嘅銀行帳戶，並且喺短時間之內呢轉離開咗香港，去咗香港以外啲銀行戶口，就避免警方嘅追查嘅。咁接住落嚟呢，我將以下時間呢就交俾案件主管高級督察梁家陽呢為大家講解今次嘅行動嘅詳情。
係，唔該周 Sir。各位傳媒大家好啊！我係財富調查組第一師隊高級督察梁家陽。較早之前，警方呢就收到證監會嘅轉介啦，其後雙方就作出聯合調查，發現一個造市集團呢喺2021年年初就開始活躍。呢個犯罪集團分別針對咗3間嘅香港上市公司，並串通呢啲公司嘅管理層作出造市嘅行為。喺調查期間，更發現呢啲犯罪嘅集團，除咗喺香港嘅證券戶口操縱呢啲股票買賣之外呢，就更加有利用新加坡嘅證券戶口操控買賣。所以警方就同證監會聯同新加坡金融管理局及新加坡警方作出今次嘅聯合調查及行動嘅。就今次嘅行動，呢個犯罪集團針對咗3間嘅上市公司，喺個證券市場上呢，嘅成交量一向都屬於低。係一個低成交嘅股票嚟嘅。首先呢，犯罪集團就會串通呢3間上市公司嘅高級管理階層作出準備，並且你會招攬一啲傀儡投資者作出大量嘅不尋常嘅買賣，藉以營造有關股票嘅成交量上升及推高股價。之後就會用不同嘅社交平台及群組，包括 Telegram、Facebook、WeChat 等等，佢哋係會訛稱係一啲可以收到股票內幕消息嘅投資人士，甚至有時係會冒充為一啲知名股壇人士咧博取信任。呢啲集團成員隨後就會訛稱有呢3間上市公司嘅內幕消息及吹捧其嘅股票，誘使無辜嘅市民呢就喺高位度買入股票嘅。有時呢啲犯罪嘅成員喺最初嘅期間呢，係會有啲機會令到啲無辜嘅市民係有啲輕微嘅得益，但係佢嘅目的咧其實都係為博取信任，繼而咧令無辜嘅市民作出更大嘅投資。當股票個價格上升到高位咧，犯罪集團就聯同3間上市公司嘅高級管理階層睇準時機，大手沽貨，就喺高位度獲利。咁樣咧就令到呢個股價咧就隨即嘅急挫，令到無辜嘅投資者咧蒙受損失。今次呢3隻股票其實喺短期內已經俾呢個犯罪集團推高嘅股價係推到2至到6倍不等，而犯罪嘅集團呢，同埋上市公司嘅高級管理階層人員大手沽貨後呢，就獲得分別港幣100多萬至到超過7000萬不等嘅利潤。 總利潤超過港幣1億7600萬。咁就不過咧，令到大量嘅無辜市民呢，就因此蒙受龐大嘅損失。為咗逃避我哋嘅調查啦，犯罪集團更安排咗傀儡開設空殼公司同埋銀行戶口，以迅速及複雜嘅方法咧，去將呢啲獲利嘅資金轉移到內地。而家警方現在努力追查緊呢個資金嘅流向。經過深入嘅調查啦，喺2021年12月15日，即是尋日，警方就聯同證監會以及新加坡金融管理局同埋新加坡警方4方作出行動。警方就聯同證監會一共動員超過170人，突擊搜查香港一共47個地方。咁當中包括被捕人士居住於跑馬地、灣仔及薄扶林嘅住宅，及位於觀塘同埋屯門嘅上市公司辦公室。最後以處理已知道或相信為代表從可公訴罪行得益的財產，俗稱洗黑錢，拘捕呢9名本地人士。佢哋分別為8男1女，年齡介乎25至62歲。佢哋報稱嘅職業包括係上市公司嘅高層、財經分析員及冷氣技工等。呢9名被捕人士當中呢，1名呢係集團裡面嘅骨幹成員，6名呢就係3間上市公司嘅高級管理階層，同埋2名呢就係傀儡公司嘅戶口持有人。與此同時呢，香港警方亦都凍結咗多個銀行戶口，當中有39個銀行戶口呢就被警方凍結嘅。咁裡面呢就共有4850萬元嘅港幣存款。同時，警方亦都檢出大量嘅現金及貴重財物，總共價值超過港幣200萬元。同一時間，新加坡嘅執法部門呢亦突擊搜查咗一個處所，並拘捕咗1名新加坡嘅女子，涉及欺詐嘅罪行，同埋凍結咗大概440萬嘅新加坡元，折約大概港幣2500萬。呢個新加坡嘅被捕人呢，佢涉嫌係上述嘅犯罪集團裡面嘅傀儡投資者。佢作出大量不尋常嘅買賣，藉以營造有關股票嘅成交量上升及推高佢嘅股價。通過呢次聯同證監會同埋新加坡執法部門嘅拘捕行動啦，警方相信已經瓦解咗一個活躍喺香港及新加坡嘅跨境造市及洗黑錢嘅集團，阻止咗不法之徒進一步處理犯罪嘅得益。有關嘅被捕人士呢，現時仍被扣留調查。而我哋嘅行動咧係仍然繼續，唔排除會有更多人被拘捕。最後啦，警方留意到啦，部分涉案嘅股票曾經喺一啲所謂投資教學嘅社交媒體群組中被吹捧，投資就涉及風險。警方呼籲市民作出投資前要清楚了解當中嘅風險，切勿相信由社交媒體提供嘅投資貼士，避免呢就承受不必要嘅損失。咁就住獵狼聯合行動，請問記者有冇啲咩嘅問題？
大家先講傳媒機構名稱，係白色衫嘅女士。
幾位你哋好，香港電台啊，首先就想問下啦，即係估計今次呢一單 case 咧，嗰個受害人嗰個人數，你哋估計有幾多啦？損失個金額咧，有冇話其實最大嘅嗰個金額係即係損失咗幾多錢啦？另外就想問下，頭先你哋都話即係會俾一啲輕微嘅得益嗰啲受害人去博取信任啦。嗰個所謂輕微得益嗰個金額，其實係咪都唔少，係即係都唔低嘅咧？係令到佢哋可以繼續即係都繼續信呢一班人咁樣咧？唔該。
好，就住呢一部分，咁我交俾證監會嘅同事回答。唔該。
Yeah, I can answer that. Okay, in terms of the numbers of people, these cases vary. They can run into hundreds. In terms of the total amount each individual lost, it's actually impossible for us to calculate that at this stage of the process. That would follow later on. If and when there is a judgment in this case, then that would be followed by some ability to provide compensation if we have the funds held in order to allow us to do that. So I missed the last part. It's a number of bases. I mean, how many places in Hong Kong are they
No,
operating
I
from?
thought you were asking about dating, right? And you were asking how they bait their victims. That's what
Okay.
That's what I thought the question was. And we're finding a lot of these victims are from things like dating sites or contacts with we call them these WeChat girls that lure people into making inappropriate investments. So we want to warn the public about that.
最尾係想問下，即係嗰個嘅輕微得益其實係即係會俾啲乜，即係幾多嘅輕微得益俾佢哋？
通常呢一啲犯罪嘅分子咧，佢哋會俾少少甜頭嗰啲嘅無辜嘅投資者啦，輕微得益咧講緊可能幾千蚊嘅一啲得益嘅啫，個數目完全係唔多嘅。咁但係就已經博取咗啲投資者嘅信任，令到佢哋繼續會再去大量再俾錢去投資，而之後就繼續俾人呃啦。唔該。
下一個問題係。
Can I just add to that? I mean, sometimes there's no money involved at all. It's literally just somebody to talk to. And then they get on to tell them about their uncle who works at the stock exchange, and that leads from one thing to another.
黑色衫男士。
喂，唔好意思，你好啊，多發部，想問翻關於其實咧喺最撚尾轉利潤嗰陣時候咧，其實就見到話佢會轉翻去個人銀行戶口啦。其實嗰個銀行戶口咪涉及咗一啲其他人嘅假銀行戶口，但其實係佢本人，即係可能係被捕人嘅本人嘅銀行戶口，但其實有涉及啲虛假銀行嘅嘢，同埋跟住佢再轉去其他地方嗰陣時候咧，先係睇過空殼公司嗰啲咁嘅情況之後咧，可唔可以再解釋下點樣複雜化，即係佢點樣用咩手法去轉走啲利潤咁樣？同埋想知道咧喺呢個造市集團犯案期間，由佢聽話2021年嘅年頭開始咁樣啦，其實成個過程嘅欺騙嘅過程嗰度，當中係維持咗幾耐，歷時咗幾耐咁樣咧？同埋會唔會話其實咁多個 group 入邊，可能有幾多個人喺個 group 入邊咁樣咧曾經出現係？唔該。
我首先係回答咗關於嗰個點樣去轉移啲犯罪得益啦。咁股票買賣咧就佢哋會將股票，首先啲股票買賣之後嗰啲得益咧就會落翻自己嘅銀行戶口先啦。咁跟住咧就會透過一啲傀儡戶口，或者再透過一啲空殼公司持有嘅傀儡戶口，去作出一啲好快速嘅轉移資金。令到我哋追查比較困難，因為佢轉移嘅次數多啲嘅時間咧，咁我哋追查嘅時間又會耐啲。咁最後咧就我哋發覺到咧，有部分嘅資金咧係流出咗香港，去咗其他地方。初步佢嘅被捕人士或者係去獲得益。去沽咗股票嘅人咧，第一步佢所得到嘅得益咧係會落翻自己戶口嘅。咁呢個包括咗一啲被捕人嘅戶口啦。咁之後嗰啲被捕人嘅戶口又會由佢自己戶口咧，就透過一啲我頭先所講嘅傀儡戶口咧，就多次轉移，然後最後咧就離開咗香港，係啦。咁另外後邊嗰部分咧，就你係問。呢個時間咧，我唔可以交翻俾證監會嘅同事，關於嗰個年期，即係個時間嗰個犯案時間。
The answer is it varies. Sometimes it can be a few weeks. Sometimes it can be done over a few months. It depends entirely on the particular operations of each individual syndicate. And how, in a sense, what level of preparation they want to put into it, how many nominee accounts they have available, how many people they think they can dump the shares to. So taking all of those factors into consideration, that would change the way that they would do it.
I'd also like to add to your comment on the fund flow. So one of the major tasks in these type of investigations is to find out how the money was transferred, where it went, who sent it, who received it. That takes a lot of time, and as we do these investigations, we're we're getting better at them as we go along. And one of the things we're doing is we're developing IT tools to help us track that fund flow a lot quicker than we normally could. So we're working on these projects right now to do that, because that takes about a third of the time during some of these investigations. So we're working on that right now.
我想補充一個唱高散貨手法嘅，咁喺呢個其中嘅例子裏邊咧，我哋證監會發現咧係嗰啲犯案人士咧係設立咗一個投資教室喺社交平台嗰度，聲稱咧就係可以咧就俾一啲免費嘅證券 tips 俾啲投資者咁樣。咁開頭初期咧，可能咧呢啲咁嘅投資教室咧，佢係俾啲 tips 係因應個大市升勢，可能介紹某啲大嘅藍籌股咧，可能令到有啲投資有少少利潤。咁但係其後咧，佢取得信任以後咧，佢就擺一啲嗰啲股票咧，可能係一啲低流量、低運作或者低價嘅股票啦，類似係我哋今次嘅target stock 咧，就去吹噓佢哋咁樣。咁而當吹裏邊你發現咧，其實咧當某啲所謂投資大師推介呢隻股票嘅時候咧，係有啲人咧隨即附和嘅，就多謝大師上一次你俾啲 tips 我哋賺咗錢喎咁樣。但係其實呢啲附和嘅人咧，本身咧我哋發現咧，都係嗰啲CTK member， 都係嗰啲集團成員，係只不過係因為我哋叫做做媒咁而去推介佢，令到咧博取有關人士嘅投資嘅信任啦。咁其中有啲譬如話多謝大師，我哋之前賺咗錢，即係多謝你啦咁樣。咁有啲直情咧誇張到咧就係話可能之前你大師介紹俾我啲股票 number 咧，我賺到可能有買咗個首期，買咗個車噃咁樣，諸如此類都有。咁呢啲再次呼籲大家即係喺網上遇到呢咁嘅情況時候咧，投資要一定要留意小心。
同埋我都補充少少啦。剛才有記者朋友問到，即係呢一啲嘅唱高散貨嘅手法，大會維持幾耐啦？即係由佢開呢一啲嘅群組，咁去到之後咧，就會隨即突然之間沽貨啊咁樣樣。咁其實我哋見到啲例子，通常咧都係2至3個月左右啦。即係佢開頭咧就會誘騙啲市民去開始買賣啦。咁但係突然之間可能去到2個零月嘅時候咧，可能佢哋儲夠人啦，覺得咦好多嘅投資者已經開始入咗市咯喎咁咧可能突然之間2個零月就會突然之間跌咗落嚟啦。咁呢啲係我哋見到喺呢3單案件嘅一個大約嗰個月份啦嚇。
卡其色衫女士。
你好，星島日報3個問題。第一想問下咧，可唔可以詳細啲講下嗰個上市公司高層咧點樣去參與嗰個騙局？係咪即係譬如借出啲股票啊，定係點樣啦？第二個問題就係咧，即係其實過去呢2年咧，唱高散貨嗰個騙案其實就應該唔止涉及3間上市公司嘅。咁其實即係 SFC 係咪真係認為即係已經係完全即係經過今次呢個行動係可以瓦解到嗰個即係嗰個市場呢一個微信裏嗰個騙局啊？定係其實可能都會繼續會執法咁樣呢？第3個問題就係見到個拘捕行動入邊呢，其實係冇證券行嘅。我想問其實有冇證券見到係有證券行係涉及呢啲即係當中有違法嘅行為去協助咁樣啦？仲有個問題就係即係市場傳聞呢，其中一個拘捕人士係龍王集團前主席黃永賜啦。我想睇下警方可唔可以即係證實係咪呢？唔該。
就住被捕人士嘅個人資料咧，因為個人私隱條例咧嘅規範咧，我哋就唔會透露噶啦。咁其他嘅問題咧，我哋交翻俾證監嘅同事去回應啦，唔該。
Yeah, so in terms of your first question about how is senior management involved, we're not saying at this point senior management is involved. We can say in a lot of these cases, major shareholders of the company may be involved. Obviously, if they're involved in corner or they've got the securities cornered, the value goes up and they can dump them on unwitting investors. They could make money, but we're not at that point in the investigation. We can verify those type of details. And your second question is, has anyone from a securities firm been arrested? Again, we're not sharing those details at this point.
No, I think the second question was, is it more than? There's more than 3 listed companies involved.
Oh, right.
I think, and in relation to that, we had a press conference in this very room in March in relation to a number of, in relation to another operation involving a number of companies. So, are there more than 3 cases being investigated by the SFC? The answer to that is yes. It's roughly about 40% of our ongoing investigations. involve ramp and dump cases.
These three are just focused on this operation itself.
Yeah.
下一個問題，好，白色衫女士。
你好，立場新聞嘅，想問呢，其實今次呢單案件係涉及邊3間公司呢？咁同埋其實你哋係點樣去揭發揾到佢哋呢啲公司出嚟啦？第二個問題就係想問呢，頭先都有提到啊，其實有好多呢一啲嘅，佢哋會開設一啲免費嘅投資教室去教人去炒股票啦。想問呢一啲投資教室主要分佈喺邊一啲嘅社交媒體嘅平台呢？有幾多個人 like 啦？群組係有幾多人數啦？多數佢哋儲到去幾多人數嘅時候，咁然之後就會唔繼續去教呢一啲嘅所謂投資教室咧。唔該。
Yeah. So in terms of which three companies, we're not identifying those at this point in time. How do we detect it? So we have very sophisticated surveillance detection equipment that monitors how stocks move. And we could see this. We can see this increase in value, and a lot of times you can see it increase in value, but there's no real news about why it's increasing in value. There's no change in its fundamentals, so there's no reason for it to increase in value. And a lot of times it's increasing in value because people are simply trading the stock back among themselves to create the appearance of volume, so other people will trade into that. So that's what was the last question?
The basically the social media platforms. I mean, it's across the board.
Yeah.
It's WeChat, WhatsApp, Telegram.
呢位女士。
我諗頭先你有一個問題咧，你都問SFC 點樣揭發呢啲咁嘅社交媒體。其實頭先阿 Mike 都答咗就係話根據我哋 SFC 裏邊咧係有一個market surveillance team 咧係去做一個每日咧做一個實時去監察香港嘅股市嘅。咁基本上所有嘅啲絕大部分案件咧都係我哋 SFC 嘅 market surveillance team 咧係去發現嘅。咁另外頭先你都問個問題就係話嗰個社交媒體嗰個分佈情況，其實咧我哋亦都發現咧呢啲集團咧係同一時間開一個教室之餘咧，可能同步開另外啲教室，不過用唔同嘅名開其他教室。咁所以佢哋其實好難察覺就係話係咪同一班人啦，定還是係有一班人。咁但係再回應翻你頭先最開頭嘅問題就係話SFC 點樣去打擊呢啲咁嘅集團咧？係咪已經打擊晒咧？咁樣其實我哋係如頭先所講啦，我哋係主力係要對於呢啲咁嘅集團做小集嘅零用緊嘅。我哋會採取所有嘅執法行動啦，投資教育啦，去絕對打擊呢啲咁嘅做小集團。唔該。
Yeah, if I just sort of add to that, I mean, essentially there are two types. There's one which is on a much more individual basis, or appears to be on an individual basis, where a person has engaged in a bilateral conversation with the person. What they don't realize is that the new net friend they found is having such conversations with potentially hundreds of other people as well, which is why they always ask about have they eaten and things like that. It's all very neutral. It doesn't mean they can't remember who these people are, so they just ask them the questions like have you eaten. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is, as Jimmy was saying, it's an investment group. And sometimes the people apparently leading these investment groups are well-known stock commentators. And so they have been impersonated in these groups. And so therefore people think they're following somebody when in fact they're not following that person at all. And that's how the tips are circulated within that group, and they draw more and more people in because they appear to be successful.
Is there any channel for the victims to get back their money? Thank you.
There may be. I mean, the police freeze money. We restrict securities and accounts with the hope that if someone's convicted of something like that, they'll have to take that money and victims can be paid back. But you know, I think in the long run, if you're going to take your advice off social media, I'm telling you, you're going to lose your money, and it's very difficult for us to get it back, and it takes a long time. So I'm just assume that if you're getting your financial advice from social media like that, you're going to lose your money and you're not going to get it back. So,
yeah, I think we gave us an answer to a similar question in March. Effectively, it's at the end of what may be a long court process, so it will take years, potentially, before we get to that point.
下一個問題，後排間條衫嗰個男士。
你好，香港01嘅，咁想問下其實今次涉案公司有冇包括喺創業板上市啦？咁另外就係3個嘅搭棚即係唱高散貨嘅搭棚行動，係咪都係即係喺差唔多時間即係一齊發生呢？定係都分佈喺即係由年初到而家係分佈喺唔同時間度發生嘅呢？應該。
Jimmy。
OK，第一個問題虛假上市呢樣嘢，我哋就係其中一個調查範圍啦。咁我哋因為由於調查進行當中咧，我哋就呢一行方面答啦。咁第二咧，頭先問嗰個時段啦，嗰3個上市公司嘅做市搭棚行為係咪同一個時段啦，定分開時段嘅？咁其實咧就係簡單講係分開時段，咁但係都係主要都係今年年初到依家發生。
個問題好，呢位。
Hi, can I? This is from Bloomberg News. So, can we confirm that those are all Hong Kong listed companies, but not, Singapore listed? And what is Singapore's role in this scheme? So, is it a one-off? Is it a one-off case, or do you see more cases which ongoing is going to involve Singapore? And the second question is, what is the SFC's enforcement focus in 2020? So, do you see the rem and dump scheme is still your key concern,
right.
or do you see other nefarious market phenomenon that you are going to stem out in the next year? Thank you.
Yeah, these are Hong Kong companies that we're looking at. As far as Singapore's involvement, I think that's really a big story here in terms of, as Michael said earlier, a lot of times we share information. Mass has always been a good partner in sharing information, sharing investigation, but rarely do we do sort of a simultaneous pincer movement on people engaged in these rampant dumps, which is very disruptive to their networks. So I think that's sort of a real key story here. As far as our enforcement focus going forward, we do have a number of these cases now, and Michael said earlier, I think it's about half of our cases out of his team, which deals with the market misconduct. So we do have a lot, and they're all at various stages. Some are new, like this one. Some have been, sent to the DOJ for advice on criminal charges. So we're moving. They're all moving along at different stages, but they're going to be, it is taking up a lot of our resources. And again, we're also doing these media campaigns to try to get people to stop investing this way. We're doing everything in our power to stop people losing money in these scams.
最後。
你好，經濟日報記者，想問多少少呢？其實咁呢3間涉事嘅上市公司係咪已經全部停咗牌？同埋後續方面呢，其實 FFC 會唔會考慮即係嗰個還原交易嗰樣嘢？因為都話涉及比較多嘅散戶會參加咗其中，會唔會有考慮呢一樣嘢？
Okay, I think I'm not quite sure I got the full question, but as far as stopping operations is concerned, the fact that there is market manipulation of the market in the shares of a listed company may not have a direct impact on the trading operations of a listed company, and so therefore there is no clear linkage and reason why, just because there has been market manipulation in the market for the shares, that you would stop the operations of that listed company. So you can still have trading in the shares of that company afterwards, because essentially the operations are continuing, and so therefore from that point of view it continues as a listed company. There's no reason to stop that.
好，第一部分嘅記者會呢就到此完結啦。請講者先行離場，稍事休息。